Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Paraguay President Santiago Peña Palacios holds delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Modi in the national capital, taking a new momentum in bilateral relationship. India's global outreach and Operation Sindoor continues. All party delegations engage with key figures in multiple nations, highlighting India's continued fight against terrorism. Russia and Ukraine to talk about peace but are still far apart as both continue to attack each other's territory. Also, Moscow calls Ukrainian attacks in 5 regions a terrorist act, intercepts 162 Ukrainian drones overnight. Nationalist historian Kirol Noroki wins Poland's presidential election in a narrow victory, gets 50.89% votes against Trzaskowski in the runoff. And in sports, Shreyas Iyer passed Punjab Kings into IPL 2025 finals with statement win against Mumbai in the qualifier too. And on to the details. Paraguay President Peña is on 3-day state visit to India, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital. Both the leaders held a delegation-level talks, taking a new momentum in bilateral relationship. Well, this is the first visit of President Peña to India and only the second visit by President of Paraguay. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on the visiting president in New Delhi. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar appreciated his positive sentiments and guidance for enhancing India-Paraguay cooperation in many domains. Earlier, the visiting president paid homage to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. On his arrival in New Delhi, Paraguay President Peña received a ceremonial welcome and a guard of honor. The state visit of President Peña will provide an opportunity for the leaders to undertake a comprehensive review of bilateral ties as well as to discuss regional and international issues of mutual interest. Well, as part of India's continued efforts under Operation Sindoor and in line with India's principled and resolute stance against terrorism, 7 all-party delegations are conveying to the world India's strong message of zero tolerance towards terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Well, all-party delegation led by Member of Parliament Vaidyanathan J. Panda met with Mohammad Khune, Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and the National Community abroad in the Algerian Parliament on Sunday. The delegation discussed the need for strong and determined measure against terrorism. The delegation appreciated Algeria's unwavering pledge for justice also. Another all-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Ravi Shankar Prasad met with the UK's Shadow Foreign Secretary Preeti Patel and a team to share India's firm resolve in combating cross-border terrorism. They also highlighted how Operation Sindoor exemplifies the new normal set by India in this ongoing effort. The delegation also interacted with representatives of Indian diaspora at India House in London on Sunday. They reaffirmed India's united stance and unwavering commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and underlined the readiness of India to continue to decisively punish any and all acts of terror. The high-level delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Sanjay Kumar Jha interacted at the India House with a 15-member National Defence College delegation from New Delhi visiting on a foreign country study tour to Malaysia. The delegation also interacted with S.P. Narayanaswamy, a veteran of the Indian National Army and a member of the Balak Sena of the INA. The delegation expressed deep gratitude for his contribution. The multi-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Supriya Sule concluded their visit to Ethiopia on Sunday evening. The delegation in Addis Ababa held rich, intense and fruitful interactions with Ethiopian dignitaries, members of media, academia, civil society, think tanks as well as the Indian community in Ethiopia. During the meeting, the Indian delegation conveyed in one voice India's zero-tolerance policy towards cross-border terrorism and briefed about developments since the heinous terror attack in Pahalgam. The Ethiopian side emphasized its own zero-tolerance policy against terrorism and stressed that terrorism must be condemned. The delegation appreciated the solidarity shown by the Ethiopian leadership in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack and thanked for the support. Also, multi-party Indian delegation led by Dr. Shrikant Shinde interacted with members of the Indian community in Liberia. The delegation members conveyed the collective will of India to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and the support received from the international community in this endeavour. They also appreciated the diaspora's role in strengthening India's friendship with Liberia. An all-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Kani Mozi interacted with members of the Indian community in Spain on Sunday. The delegation conveyed a powerful message to the diaspora, emphasizing that India remains unshakable and united in its fight against terrorism, which threatens global peace and humanity. The delegation also interacted with Arturo Fernandez Alvarez, a Spanish businessman who is a survivor of the horrible terror attacks that took place in Mumbai on 26th of November 2008. Arturo joined the delegation in condemning the menace of terrorism.
Well, of course, the all-party delegation led by DMK MP Kani Mozi has reached Spain. And of course, today's engagement of the delegation is extremely important because, throughout the day, the delegation would be meeting with important senators here in Spain's capital city of Madrid. They are also expected to have a meeting with the foreign minister of Spain and also with the intellectuals and think tanks here in Spain and also meetings with the officials of the Foreign Affairs Ministry here in Spain. After which the delegation would be departing for Delhi after a successful visit of Five Nations, where the delegation have been successfully been able to convince and put forward India's position on terror and how Pakistan had been sponsoring terrorism. The delegation throughout their visits to different countries in Europe as well as in Russia did present with the dossier, with evidences, with photographs of how Pakistan's military as well as the Pakistan civilian government has been exporting terror into India, and India is united against terror. India will not take down terror lightly anymore. And the fact that India's terror doctrine has now changed, wherein any act of terror on the soil of India would be considered as an act of war, and not just the terrorists but also the sponsors of terrorists will be held accountable by India for waging a proxy war on the soil and the innocent people of India. So of course, the takeaway message is strong, loud and clear. The delegation have been able to convince and put forward the message not just to the government of India but also of the 1.4 billion people that they're representing in all these different countries.
Well, the multi-party parliamentary delegation leading India's global diplomatic outreach on Operation Sindoor has now reached Brazil, the biggest country in South America. Led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the group will be conducting some very high-profile meetings in Brasilia. DD India correspondent Shobhan Saxena reports from the delegation's arrival in Brazil.
As India's diplomatic outreach about Operation Sindoor and cross-border terrorism continues across the world, the all-party parliamentary delegation, led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, landed in Brasilia on Sunday morning.
Well, we are on a 5-country visit. We've done 3 countries already, Guyana, Panama, and Colombia. And we are now in Brazil, though Sunday, it's now 1 a.m. on Sunday as we've landed, is actually a day of rest, which I think the team has earned after a fairly hectic program since we left. We then have meetings in Brazil all day, and then we proceed to Washington, which will be the final leg of our journey.
In their meetings with Brazilian leaders, the Indian delegation will brief them about the terror attack on unarmed civilians in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. The delegation, which includes MPs of several political parties, will convey India's strong national consensus in the fight against cross-border terrorism. The MPs will also reaffirm the country's message of Operation Sindoor.
On the whole, we've had some very good results. My team has been fully participating in everything. We are all equal participants in this venture. And here in Brazil, we're looking forward to having some very solid, constructive discussions. Brazil is a major power in the region. It's a BRICS partner of ours. We've elevated our relationship to a strategic partnership going back to 2006. So it's a country that really matters to us. And though they're not currently on the Security Council, we felt keeping them fully abreast of our position and continuing to keep the dialogue channels open is very important for us.
Arriving in Brazil's capital from Bogota in Colombia, the leader of the high-level delegation said the meetings in South America have been very, very successful so far.
In both Guyana and Panama, which are Security Council members, there was tremendous understanding and support for our mission and expressions of solidarity for our fight against terror. In Colombia, there had unfortunately been a statement issued during Operation Sindoor, which actually condoled the Pakistani victims rather than saying anything about India. So we had that rectified. We met with the government, and I'm very pleased to say that they have withdrawn that statement, and instead they have issued something very positive and supportive.
During their stay in Brasilia, the delegation will meet members of the Indian community, interact with the media, and on Tuesday, before flying to Sao Paulo on the way to the US, the Indian delegation will pay floral tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi here in Brasilia. This is Shovan Saxena for DD India in Brasilia, Brazil.
Well, global aviation leaders are in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport System Summit hosted by Indigo. The event marks India's growing influence in aviation, with Prime Minister Modi set to deliver the keynote address. Take a look.
The global aviation spotlight turns to India as the world's airline leaders gather in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and the World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo and held for the first time in India since 1983, this landmark event takes place from June 1st to 3rd, bringing together more than 1,700 participants from CEOs and policymakers to media from around the world.
We have over 1,700 delegates from all across the world, includes airlines, and many of the other players in the aviation ecosystem who are participating, delegates from over 100 countries. And IATA has also updated its reference to India. It is now the third largest aviation market in the world.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address, underscoring the country's growing importance on the global aviation map. The World Air Transport Summit, following the AGM, will dive into the future of flight, addressing key issues like sustainability, innovation, and connectivity in an ever-changing world.
We're seeing the emergence of a stronger aviation sector in India. As I mentioned, on the back of emergence of stronger airlines within the country, the growth of connectivity, the growth of the network that Indians can connect to the rest of the world, to other parts of the country. All of that is significant, and we are also seeing significant increase in the airport infrastructure as well.
India's aviation industry is soaring. It supports nearly 370,000 direct jobs and contributes $5.6 billion to the economy. Add in tourism and indirect impact, and that number climbs to a staggering 7.7 million jobs and $53.6 billion, making up 1.5% of India's GDP.
As the global aviation industry charts its own course for the future, all eyes are on New Delhi. With a record partnership and high-level dialogue, India isn't just hosting the conversation, it's helping to lead it. From tradition to transformation, India welcomes the future of aviation here at the Bharat Mandapam. With camera person Anil Thakur, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for TD India from Delhi.
And on to some weather news. The southwest monsoon's dramatic onset in northeast India has left a trail of destruction, claiming multiple lives and impacting over thousands of people across 5 states. Over the past 3 days, relentless rains have unleashed flash floods and landslides in Assam, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur and Tripura, collapsing buildings, washing away roads and displacing thousands. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued red alerts across the region, warning of further downpours that could intensify the crisis. Rescue efforts are being hindered by continuous rain and damaged infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Indian Meteorological Department has forecast continued weather disturbances, including thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and the national capital region till Tuesday. Delhi woke up on Monday to partly cloudy skies and a minimum temperature of 27.2 degrees centigrade, just slightly above the seasonal average. This continues a pattern of abnormally wild conditions in May. The capital has so far been spared the intense heat waves typically associated with this time of the year. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while. Welcome back. You're watching TD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Kuran, and moving on the eve of peace talks, Ukraine and Russia sharply ramped up the conflict with one of the biggest drone battles since February 2022. At least 7 people were killed and 69 injured when a highway bridge in Russia's Bryansk region, neighboring Ukraine, was blown up over a passenger train heading to Moscow with 388 people on board. Ukraine attacked Russian nuclear-capable long-range bombers at a military base deep in Siberia on Sunday. Ukraine's Domestic Intelligence Service, the SBU, acknowledged it, carried out the attack, codenamed Operation Spider's Web, planned for more than a year and a half. Russia launched 472 drones at Ukraine overnight and also launched 7 missiles, also intercepted 162 Ukrainian drones overnight. The majority of the drones were shot down over regions bordering Ukraine, with 57 intercepted over the Kursk region and 31 over the Belgorod region. Meanwhile, Russian and Ukrainian delegation are in Istanbul, Turkey, ahead of a second round of peace talks. The first round of the talks more than a week ago yielded the biggest prisoner exchange of the war, but no sense of any consensus on how to halt the fighting. Amid talk of peace, though, there was much war. The two sides will present their respective documents outlining their ideas for peace terms, though it is clear that after 3 years of intense conflict, in June last year, Putin set out his opening terms for an immediate end to the war. Ukraine must drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw all of its troops from the entirety of the territory of 4 Ukrainian regions claimed and mostly controlled by Russia. Well, a proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff is being worked out from all sides for ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. In a joint statement, Egypt and Qatar said on Sunday they are continuing efforts to converge views and overcome disagreements to reach a Gaza ceasefire. Hamas also expressed its readiness to immediately start a round of indirect negotiations to reach an agreement on points of contention. More than 30 Palestinians were killed and nearly 170 injured on Sunday in South Gaza near a food distribution site, as per its health ministry. It also said Israeli soldiers fired on people trying to collect aid and Israel denied it. But the US-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation denied the incident and said food was handed out without incident on Sunday at the distribution point in Rafah and there were no deaths or injuries. GHF released undated video to support its statement that showed dozens of people gathering around piles of boxes. While the Israel Defense Forces released drone footage purportedly showing Hamas gunmen firing at the crowds, asserting that the incident was a deliberate effort to sabotage humanitarian efforts. Israel's military said that findings from an initial inquiry indicated soldiers had not fired on civilians while they were near or within the aid distribution site. And Polish nationalist opposition candidate Karol Nawrocki won the second round of the country's presidential election with 50.89% of the votes. Nawrocki, 42, a Eurosceptic historian and amateur boxer who ran a National Remembrance Institute, campaigned on a promise to ensure economic and social policies favor Poles over other nationalities, including refugees from neighboring Ukraine. His rival, Rafał Zurkowski, the liberal Warsaw mayor and an ally of the government led by Donald Tusk, got 49.11%. While Poland's parliament holds most power, the president can veto legislation, and the vote was being watched closely in Ukraine as well as Russia, the United States and across the European Union. And Mexicans chose their judges in unprecedented elections that sharply divided opinion in a country plagued by rampant crime, corruption and impunity. According to the National Electoral Institute, turnout reached only around 13% of the 100 million eligible voters. With more than 880 positions to fill, many voters struggled to choose from the plethora of largely unknown candidates. The vote will elect 2,600 judges and magistrates, including all Supreme Court justices, and is part of a reform pushed by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his protege and successor Sheinbaum. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said the election will root out corruption in a flawed judiciary and instead allow people to decide who should be a judge. And moving on, in Boulder, Colorado, several individuals sustained injuries in what the FBI is investigating as a targeted terror attack. A man allegedly threw Molotov cocktail-like devices near pro-Israeli demonstrators. While police have a suspect in custody, the Boulder police chief refutes the FBI's terror claim, citing the investigation's early stage. Here's a report.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation in the US is investigating a targeted terror attack where multiple people were set on fire Sunday afternoon near Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. Multiple people were injured, one of them critically, when an attacker used an incendiary device on demonstrators who were marching to buoy awareness of hostages held by Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Witnesses said the suspect threw Molotov cocktails that burned some or all of the victims who were part of a march for Israeli hostages.
It's very scary and it's a huge shock. And it's a big thing that, sadly we've experienced before, but it's really scary and it's really upsetting that it's happening in Boulder.
FBI Special Agent in charge of the Denver field office, Mark Michalik, said there were 6 victims aged between 67 and 88 years who were transported to hospitals. Michalik said a male suspect was taken into custody named Mohammed Soliman, who was aged 45. Soliman was hospitalized shortly after the attack.
We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses.
FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency was aware of and fully investigating the targeted terror attack. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said it appeared to be a hate crime given the group that was targeted. But Boulder Police Chief Redfern stressed it was too soon to speculate about a motive. The incident comes amid heightened tensions in the United States over Israel's conflict in Gaza, which has spurred both an increase in anti-Semitic hate crime. Bureau Report, TD India.
And on to some sports news. Shreyas Iyer led from the front with an unbeaten 87 of 41 as Punjab Kings booked their place in the final of IPL 2025 against Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Punjab, in fact, chased down 204 with an over to spare in the qualifier 2 against Mumbai. This also marks the first time Mumbai Indians have not been able to defend a score of 200 plus. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from Affair in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
I am Gujarat. I embody our nation's history. I represent the heroes of our country. I am Gujarat. I'm art. I'm culture. I am the present. I am the future. I am Gujarat. I walk with changing times. I build with the creators of tomorrow. I am the growth emblem of the nation. I'm home to India's glory. I am the abode of unending cultural stories. I am Gujarat. I have sown the seeds of development. I have planned the map of progress. I am Gujarat. I am the farmer. I am the industrialist. I am Gujarat. I represent the new India. I take pride in my Bharat. I am Gujarat. I represent the essence of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I am Gujarat.
Swagat ahe to magnetic Maharashtra, the land of valor, dreams and wonders. A state that is a perfect blend of rich cultural heritage and modern cosmopolitan India. Its breathtaking beaches and luscious green Western Ghats are home to 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites that attract innumerable tourists. Maharashtra is a state of vibrant cultures knitted together into a beautiful tapestry. Its people uphold a brave heart and a compassionate soul, a glimpse of which can be seen in the heartwarming stories of the land. Maharashtra is a leader in terms of agriculture, industrial production, trade and transport. From world-famous Nagpur oranges to world-class Nashik wines, from scenic expressways to the majestic sea link, the state is ready to take global center stage. Maharashtra's capital city Mumbai is also the financial and commercial capital of India. With headquarters of major corporate and financial institutions, including India's main stock exchanges, the city is a key driver of the service sector in India. Mumbai, the city of dreams, is also an art and entertainment capital and home to the Indian film industry, one of the largest in the world with a global fan following. Playing host to G20 meetings, Maharashtra and the city of Mumbai are ready to offer our guests an enriching glimpse of India's diversity, inclusive tradition and cultural richness.
We share a relationship.
And now let's go live. We have joint remarks by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Paraguay's President.
हार्दिक स्वागत है। पैराग्वे दक्षिण अमेरिका में हमारे महत्वपूर्ण पार्टनर्स में से है। हमारा भूगोल भले ही अलग हो, लेकिन हमारे लोकतांत्रिक आदर्श और जन कल्याण की एक ही सोच है। एक्सेलेंसी, आपकी यात्रा बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। दूसरी बार पैराग्वे के किसी राष्ट्रपति की भारत यात्रा हो रही है। एक्सेलेंसी, मुझे खुशी है कि आपके साथ सीनियर मंत्री, अच्छा एक बड़ा ताकतवर डेलीगेशन आपके साथ आया है। आप केवल दिल्ली नहीं बल्कि मुंबई भी जा रहे हैं। इससे आपसी संबंधों को प्रगाढ़ करने की आपकी प्रतिबद्धता बिल्कुल स्पष्ट है। मेरा विश्वास है कि आपसी सहयोग से हम साझी समृद्धि का मार्ग प्रशस्त करेंगे। एक्सेलेंसी, हमारे पास आर्थिक सहयोग सहित डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी, क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, ऊर्जा, कृषि, स्वास्थ्य, डिफेंस, रेलवे तथा स्पेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में सहयोग के नए अवसर हैं। मर्कोसूर के साथ हमारा प्रेफरेंशियल ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट है। हम मिलकर इसके विस्तार पर काम कर सकते हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और पैराग्वे कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर खड़े हैं। साइबर क्राइम, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम, ड्रग ट्रैफिकिंग जैसी साझा चुनौतियों से लड़ने के लिए सहयोग की अपार संभावनाएं हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत और पैराग्वे ग्लोबल साउथ के अभिन्न अंग है। हमारी आशाओं, आकांक्षाओं और चुनौतियों में समानता है। इसलिए हम एक दूसरे के अनुभवों से सीखते हुए इन चुनौतियों से कारगर तरीके से निपट सकते हैं। हमें संतोष है कि कोविड महामारी के समय हम भारत में बनी वैक्सीन पैराग्वे के लोगों के साथ साझा कर सके। ऐसी और भी क्षमताएं हम एक दूसरे के साथ साझा कर सकते हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, मुझे विश्वास है कि आपकी यात्रा से आपसी संबंधों के विश्वास, व्यापार और करीबी सहयोग के स्तंभों को नई मजबूती मिलेगी। साथ ही भारत और लैटिन अमेरिका संबंधों में भी नए आयाम जुड़ेंगे। पिछले वर्ष मैंने गयाना में कैरिकॉम समिट में भाग लिया। हमने कई विषयों पर सहयोग बढ़ाने पर बात की। मैं समझता हूं कि उन सब क्षेत्रों में हम पैराग्वे और सभी लैटिन अमेरिकी देशों के साथ मिलकर काम कर सकते हैं। एक बार फिर मैं आपका भारत में हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं।
Well, you were watching live joint remarks by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Paraguay President. Both the leaders held a delegation-level talks, taking a new momentum in bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Modi said India and Paraguay were an intimate part of the global south and had a lot of commonalities. Prime Minister Modi also said that Paraguay was an important partner for India in many areas. That's the gist of the meeting.